For Las Vegas, it was like the offense was on a 3-week vacation last week, totally shut out and embarrassed. And so had to figure that Josh McDaniels is brought in to fix the offense, and somehow Derek Carr, the offense with Devontae Adams, looks worse than it did last year.
Yeah, that was one of the worst performances, I think, of any team in the NFL this year. Having some confidence after the way they played against Houston at home, coming off a bye, gave the Chiefs all they could handle. It felt like the Raiders were building some momentum, and then they completely laid an egg in New Orleans. The interesting thing about Vegas this week is they didn't go back to Vegas. They went to IMG in Florida, where they're going to spend the week practicing before they fly up to take on the Jags. So maybe a little team bonding, maybe a little soul searching, and they can get back on track. And, you know, what's a tough division this year. But, yeah, absolutely a horrid performance by the Raiders against the Saints last Sunday.
You know, for the Jags, the other side of the coin is there's optimism there. Trevor Lawrence has looked better this season. Doug Peterson is a better fit culturally because last year it was like Urban Meyer soaked his company for all it was worth and then left it high and dry. But it's not equating to wins. So what's the key for the Jaguars to finally turn the corner and not just feel better about things, but also see the W's?
Yeah, well, I think Travis Etienne is turning into a star, and that's a big part of this offense. And then the trade they made yesterday, I think, kind of flew under the radar because he's not playing, but Calvin Ridley could be a pretty good piece for them next year if it all works out. So I think that there is some optimism there. Obviously, the wins aren't coming, but all their losses are by one score. Lawrence has made some critical mistakes at the wrong times, but I think there at least is a clearer path than there was last year. In many ways, and Doug Peterson has told this to us, this is almost like a rookie year for Trevor Lawrence because of the disaster that was last year in so many ways. So I do like the marriage here between Lawrence and Doug Peterson. You know, Lawrence is already on to number 2, so I think that maybe this one will stick.
Andrew Catalon joins us from the NFL on CBS. Last week you had Dolphins and Lions, and look, the Dolphins, they know that their passing game, kind of like bread is the centerpiece of any great meal, their passing game is what the focal point is. But they make the trade for Bradley Chubb yesterday. Do you think that including Chubb into the pass rush of the defense makes them a legit Super Bowl contender alongside the elite like the Bills and the Chiefs?
You know, I was really impressed with the Dolphins last week, and I know it came against the Lions, but you know, this Detroit team could be something we talk about in a few years too. But as for Miami, we met with Tyreek Hill on Saturday night at the Dolphins Hotel, and he kind of looked at us through his sunglasses and said, I think this offense can score 40 points per game. And we kind of like, oh, yeah, you know, a little chuckle, like, and he was serious. And then they go out there and they lit up the scoreboard against Detroit. And look, I don't think that Tua has gotten enough credit for the way that he has played when he's been healthy this year. Obviously, he's got the weapons in Hill and Waddle, and Raheem Mostert is having a really nice season. But I think Tua has been really special. Now, yeah, the offense can score some points, but the defense, you know, they lost their safety, Brandon Jones. That's a big loss. But they have some players now, and Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, and you throw in Bradley Chubb, who's going to be motivated, going to be fired up. This is a really interesting team. I don't think they're better than the Bills right now in the AFC, but I don't know if you want to play this Miami team come January either.
So let's talk about Tua, because you've done Dolphin games before, and there's always been this but with Tua. Is he as athletic? Does he have the arm strength? Is he accurate enough? Does he have the leadership? This year, despite the concussion and losing those games, he does seem to be putting it all together. When you met with him and met with coaches last week, what was your sense of where Tua is on his evolution this year?
You know, he really said some interesting things to us, D.A., and I mentioned some of them on the air. But, you know, this last injury, which was obviously very serious to the point where they changed the rule in the NFL, really rattled his family to the point where they were asking him, are you sure you want to keep doing this? You've come back from so many injuries in the past. Is this one you really want to fight back through? And he went into this really interesting discussion with us about how much football means to him. Smelling the grass, running out there with his teammates, scoring a touchdown and the crowd going wild. And he looked at us and said, I don't know where else I can go and find that. There's nothing else in life that can provide me that adrenaline. So there's a lot going on with Tua and Miami, but he just seems so happy to be talking about playing football and the relationship he has with Tyreek Hill. They were telling us how they play video games at night, and right on down the list, Mike McDaniel has a great relationship with Tua. Tua seems to be headed to a very happy place. Now, we know how fragile that could be with him in the past with his injuries, but on Saturday night in Detroit, and then what we saw on Sunday afternoon, he seemed like he had that look in his eye like, I'm going to go out and enjoy this. And, throwing to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is a lot of fun. So I think that this team could, if they stay healthy, and that's a big question, but they really could make some noise here.
Andrew Catalon joins us, NFL on CBS. This week he's got Raiders and Jaguars. Last week had Dolphins and Lions in Detroit. And look, the Lions are far from the kind you find in a luxury safari. They're not tearing anybody limb from limb these days. And Dan Campbell brings emotion. He brings a great quote. You know that he cares, but it's not equating into wins. Ford family says, we're happy. We're staying the course. It's going to take some time. But is patience running out at all on Dan Campbell and his attitude?
I didn't get that sense. I actually really enjoyed my time with the Lions on Friday when we went to their practice and sat with some of their players. Jeff Okudah, their corner, is having a great year. They have some pieces, and they've had a lot of close losses as well. And, look, I think it's easy for me and you to say, like, oh, yeah, the Lions could be good in a couple years. I think Lions fans are really tired of hearing that. And certainly the quarterback position in the future is going to be something they're going to have to evaluate with Jared Goff. But, I talked to their GM for a while, Brad Holmes. I talked to Campbell. Their owner, Mrs. Tamp, was at practice. You don't see, I go to a practice every Friday. I don't see owners out there walking around too much. I thought that was interesting. It seems like they really believe in Dan Campbell, in Mr. Holmes, the GM, and I came away encouraged, but also understanding that Lions fans are probably tired of hearing that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. You want to see silver linings, but it's hard to find when you're 1-6 again. Lions fans are too used to that. Before I let you go, 2 weeks ago you called Colts and Titans, and the Titans end up winning this game. Has felt like Frank Reich's been under fire all season long, but they make the change from Matt Ryan to Sam Ehlinger. That clearly didn't work wonders this past week. You obviously have followed that quite closely. What do you think the future of Frank Reich is in Indianapolis if things continue this way?
D.A., this is one of the biggest surprises to me the NFL season. I really thought the Colts were going to be good. I spent, as you pointed out, back-to-back weeks with them. I did their game when they came back to beat Jacksonville and then when they lost in Tennessee. And being around that team, being around Frank Reich, being around Matt Ryan those 2 weeks, I was like, wow, these guys love each other. Even Jim Irsay said after the Jaguars game that the leadership qualities that Matt Ryan displays remind him of Peyton Manning. And when Matt Ryan threw that touchdown to beat Jacksonville late in the game, he ran right to the sideline and hugged Frank Reich. To me, there was just such a harmony between everyone involved there. And then they lose the game in Tennessee, and then everything changes. And whether that was Jim Irsay getting involved and saying, I'm tired of seeing Matt Ryan, or how that went down, I don't know. Then yesterday they fired their offensive coordinator, Marcus Brady, who I know Frank was really high on. I think that what is not getting enough attention is their offensive line. It's not the old Colts offensive line that we knew and dominated for the last few years. I think that's causing some big problems, but I am shocked that they went and benched Matt Ryan. Now, that's not to say Sam Ehlinger can't, can't make some plays, can't win some games. But after you're with a team for 2 consecutive weeks and seeing and hearing and feeling how they all talked about each other, I can't believe that Matt Ryan's not the quarterback of the Colts anymore. And it seems like there's a lot of drama there right now, and I don't know how it's going to play out, because I thought they were going to be a playoff team before the year, and it's hard, even though they're not out of it. It's hard to see that right now.